Hi, everybody. It's Mike Cadieux again, and I have the amazing pleasure of introducing a friend and colleague to you for this next session. Stephany Lapierre and I have had a relationship for a couple of years now, and it's great to see you again, Stephany. Thank you so much for taking time out of your amazingly busy schedule to come and talk to us at our Supplier Diversity Inclusion Conference. And also, thank you to Teal Book for being a sponsor of this event and Procurement Foundry. I know you've done some amazing things to help push the agenda for Procurement Foundry. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So here's how we're going to run this, a little bit of housekeeping really quickly. I am going to step away and Stephany is going to talk for about 15, 20, 25 minutes about her agenda on DataFirst. And then we will collect questions in the question and answer section in the back. And then I will come back on and Stephany and I will chew through some of that for you as time permits. All right. So I think with that, I would like to once again thank Stephany for her time, founder and CEO of Teal Book. If you don't know what Teal Book is and you're at a Supplier Diversity and Inclusion Conference, you've been living under a rock. It's one of the formidable products in the industry today. And I'll let Stephany go. Thank you so much again, Stephany. And I'm gonna bow out behind the scenes here.
Thanks again for having me this morning. I'm really thrilled to be here and talk about what's something that's really important to me, to our company, to our customers around supplier diversity. A bit about my story. If you haven't heard, the inspiration for Teal Book came about 15 years ago now, where I was working with a client. I had built a consulting firm, and a client before I left mentioned that she had this amazing company. They were a startup, super innovative, and they had done something for her business that was incredibly valuable. And so as I was leaving her office, I said, Steph, you need to meet these guys. And she proceeded to go under her desk to pull a 2-inch binder filled with pamphlets and business cards of suppliers that she had met probably in the last 20 years, and spent 10 minutes looking for this business card. She couldn't remember the name. She knew the guys from before. It was a funny acronym. So as she kept talking and flipping through this binder, literally pamphlet falling off, and I'm sure you can all relate to this. She finally found the business card, and she gave it to me and said, write down their contact information and give it back because I don't want to lose it. And she shoved it back in her binder and put the binder back under her desk. Now, there's a lot of inspiration for Teal Book, but that was the initial spark, because as I sat there for 10 minutes watching her trying to give me a recommendation of a company who truly added value to her business, she took 10 minutes to find that contact information. When she put it back in the binder, I knew that her company, which is a large Fortune 100 pharmaceutical company, was not going to have access to this information because it was in her binder. And the only reason she thought of it is because I was there in front of her and we were talking about something around innovation. As I stepped away and drove towards the airport, I knew that the organization, they were trying to consolidate their supplier base by 50%. They had engaged one of the large consulting firms. They were looking at spend. They were looking at risk to do this consolidation. And by reducing their supplier base by 50%, they were going to destroy relationship that had spent so much energy and time championing these small businesses that were truly adding value to one particular business. And so I was like, how can they do this without having data? And the data lives in her head, lives in a binder, times all the different businesses. And on top of that, for this amazing new startup that's adding value, how do they get promoted? How do they go about showcasing what they've done with one of the business in order to grow their own business and their business development effort across the same organization where they already have a contract, they already went through diligence, and we all know how time consuming and how much resource that takes. And so it just felt wrong. Like, for all these things, I was like, there's got to be a better way. As I started building up my consulting firm, and we were building now procurement functions for hyper-growth companies, I thought we had a clean slate. I was like, how can we do this differently? How can we enable a procurement function to scale and provide transparency to the organization based on how can we maximize our spend with the right suppliers, and how can we enable people in the organization to move faster without creating duplications, without creating additional unnecessary processes. And what I realized is that very quickly, as we started to introduce systems as software as a way to workflow information, and asking suppliers to come to 1, 2, 3, or multiple more portals, we were not getting the type of data that we required to build this transparent, scalable, enabling function. And so for me, two things became really obvious is that, one, we're spending a lot of time sourcing suppliers, doing diligence, onboarding them into a system, championing them. We're trying to leverage them, for different capabilities. We're paying them often all separately with different invoice. We're using legal resources, compliance resources. There's a significant investment for each of those relationships. And if we don't have good quality data, if we don't have a way to leverage them or be able to drive strategic initiative because we don't have that good data, we're losing hundreds of millions of dollars. And if we could capitalize on this asset, which is your supplier base, it could drive towards savings, it could drive towards innovation, it could drive towards your sustainability, corporate social responsibility goals, it could drive to risk mitigation. But we're paralyzed when we don't have this good data. The other thing that came to me is that software does not fix data. It's not because you implement a software with a workflow to collect information that's going to naturally give you good data. One, a lot of the data cleansing happens up front, and it's really, really difficult to maintain. And two, we're asking suppliers to come to multiple portals, oftentimes within the same organization, oftentimes within the same system, but with the different modules. And now times this by the number of customers and the number of systems that exist. And we're seeing more and more digital solutions in the market. If you've seen the ecosystem graph from Kearney, there's a ton of tech companies that are now available, and 98% of them require suppliers to come to a portal to put their information into a solution. It's just not sustainable, not at the scale and at the speed that the market requires it. So when I think of the architecture, and when we certainly talk to our clients about the disparity of their system and the cost of having third-party services, data cleansing, how you maintain your data, the integration infrastructure between those systems, having suppliers to come to multiple portals, it's not effective, it's expensive. And when you're thinking about building a more agile, more flexible architecture that gives you good quality information, this has no kind of meat to an end. It's not going to get better in the existing architecture. And when I think of supplier diversity and how I've seen supplier diversity done in the past, and we're getting a little bit better, but most of the time we're putting supplier diversity as this side thing, right? We have a team that's responsible for supplier diversity. We have gated database. This person is responsible to introduce or promote small and diverse businesses. We may have a separate portal for this. We're talking about supplier diversity not being integrated, and the opportunity to have supplier diversity as a core part of your data set that flows across your system and gives access to that information, because those small and diverse businesses are typically the ones that are actually really hard to get information on. They're actually really hard to get them to come to a portal because they may not have the resources or the motivation to continue maintaining 500 different portals. And so when I think of the challenge of supplier diversity for procurement, we're talking about 100% reliance on suppliers to come to a portal. Typically, the process of reporting on small diverse spend is quite manual. We're talking about exporting files from your systems, cleansing the data, having a separate portals that can match the data. You got to validate those certificates. You got to pull this information together to submit a report. So incredibly manual, and not necessarily the best time spent for the team versus like understanding your baseline, understanding where you can make a real impact and then grow those goals. There's no real visibility into qualified small and diverse suppliers, especially potential. Who are the suppliers that meet the requirements but are not certified? If we only account for small and diverse suppliers that are certified, we may be missing a very large population of suppliers that would meet the requirements that should be recognized. We're not capitalizing on tier 2, so it's very difficult to get suppliers to report on their own diverse spend. There's a lot of reasons for that. Typically is lack of education, or the infrastructure requires too expensive. They may not understand the upside. And so we have a large pharma client who had only 7 out of 36,000 suppliers that were reporting their own diversity spend. So we're talking about a missed opportunity to make the most impact on your supplier diversity. very little influence. So if supplier diversity is not integrated in the process into sourcing tools, how are we able to include them at the moment that there's an opportunity? We've heard this so many times that, by the time the supplier diversity representative finds the suppliers in multiple databases between, women-owned, LGBTQ-owned, veteran-owned, and comes back with qualified suppliers, that they often miss the opportunity. The appeals already being issued to another supplier, and so we don't really have a chance to properly influence. And then just missing opportunity to share insight when they are an amazing startup, like the ones that my initial customer was thinking about. How are we able to take this information and be able to promote them internally? There are the pipeline for innovation. They are introducing new ways of doing business, and be able to celebrate that and show the value that they've been able to generate to the organization can be tremendously powerful. And the challenge on the supplier side, so that was actually maybe the most shocking statistics that I've seen, is only 5% of businesses that meet requirements to be small and diverse are in fact certified, right? So organizations go out, we're making this commitment to spending $1 billion with small and diverse businesses, but you're only really recognizing and tapping into only 5% of the entire ecosystem. And so there's a lot of reasons. Again, as I mentioned, suppliers may not know about the upside of being certified. It may be too expensive. The ROI may not be worth. We've heard 5-year ROI from investing in one of the certifying organization. And then by the time you attend trade shows, you maintain a lot of different portals, you build relationship with a diversity representative. And the hard truth is that when you go to multiple portal, it doesn't mean you're going to get business. When you're building relationship with the diversity representative of a large pharmaceutical company, it doesn't mean that you're going to be exposed to all of the opportunities based on your business. And often when that person rotates and is not longer responsible for supplier diversity, you almost have to rebuild the relationship with the new diversity representative. So that's, I'm quoting things that I've heard and research that we've done on the topic. And ultimately, if they're not able to be, at the forefront of those business opportunities, they are missing the opportunity to be equal, to win business against other non-small and diverse suppliers. And so I'm going to tell you a story because our technology, what differentiates Teal Book from all different technologies is we are using a data-first approach. So we've leveraged the type of technology that was available that combines cloud to big data to machine learning to natural language processing, a lot of buzzwords, but those are tools. And they were tools that allowed us to proactively collect information on every B2B company in the world. And so we want to know who these suppliers are. We want to know where they do business, what do they do, how they should be categorized, who are the people in the organization, where are they physically located, who's most similar to them. And so we've been spending the last 5 years heavily investing on how can we curate this data across hundreds of thousands to millions of different data sources. And so what we heard from one of our initial customers, when we had a lot of different use case laid out on the table, if you can improve the quality of my data without relying on suppliers to come to a portal, right, and you can do it at the speed and at a scale that we couldn't even do through third-party services or humans, what are those use cases? And we listed about 20 use cases, but unanimously, this company cared a lot about supplier diversity. They felt that it was such an important initiative at the leadership level that if we could win here, if we could remove the friction and we could automate the process, and the win was to find 50 to 100 net new suppliers in their own data that qualified, that would be certified, but they would have missed in their existing reporting process, mostly because it was manual, mostly because it relied on suppliers to come to the portal. And if they have hundreds of suppliers that are small and diverse certified that did not come to the portal for whatever reason, when you add it all up, it could represent, millions of dollars. And they were not sure because their process was manual. They're collecting supplier records and certificates through a portal that they actually had captured 100% of their suppliers. They want to also increase visibility of who are the suppliers that could be small and diverse so that they could champion them, educate them on getting certified. And they want to improve also the level of influence that sourcing managers could have in introducing small diverse suppliers so that they could also increase the impact that they would have in small diverse spend. And so they gave us this challenge. If you could show us how you can improve the quality of the data over time, so if you could reduce the error rate over a period of 10 days, and if you could help us find 50 to 100 net new suppliers in our own data that qualify based on what we report and based on the fact that they're certified, it would be a massive win. And so we came back, at the time we had no supplier diversity data. This is not a use case that we had focused our machines on, but we took on the challenge. And at the time, we're a small team. We basically shut down all other initiative and focus on, can we find sources of data that would be indicators or even find certificate that our machines could read, could classify, could unify back to the supplier profile with the expiration date, with the classification. Could we match this against the master data? And our result were just amazing. So we came back 10 business days later, and we had 800 net new suppliers that they had missed in their previous reporting. That represented 20% improvement in their small diverse spend reporting, which was a phenomenal initiative. It went all the way to the CEO of the company. I got a personal note saying that this is just unbelievable. And that, again, is just portal manual way versus data. We have the opportunity to capture 100% of the suppliers and be able to match that to certification. And so we were able to produce this report very fast. The other amazing thing is we found 800 suppliers, and since then many more, that were potential. That meant that they had a certificate that was expired, or they had been certified in the past and they were not anymore. Or maybe we could see a certain size of the company that indicate that they should qualify, or maybe we saw a logo or keywords on their website that indicate that they look like they should be small or diverse, or they were physically located in hub zone, or we could find B Corp information. And so we start pulling that data in and exposing it to our clients to show that they had 800 at the time potential small and diverse suppliers. So these were suppliers, again, that qualified or looked like they could qualify, but were not certified. So they could not be recognized in the reporting. And at the time, and this is now significantly more, but at the time we had reduced just in 10 business days, the manual effort, because they still had to pull their data. We still had to do the implementation and matching the data. And then we did spot check with the client. So there was still some manual effort at the time, but to reduce 50% of the manual effort to produce a report, that enabled them to do their reporting faster and their reporting quarterly. So imagine 6 to 8 weeks every quarter is an enormous amount of time saving. So since then, there's many, many stories. Teal Book has been known for supplier diversity. It's a use case that we love because the win happens really, really fast. Within implementation, we're seeing 20 to 300% improvement, not by adding more suppliers or making some magic, just by able to capitalizing on 100% of the suppliers that you have under contract who meet your requirements or are certified. And so this is a real case example. On the left here, on the blue, you can see what the client have given us. And so they had $352 million in spend. That represented 3.1% of their total spend. And upon implementation, we found 112 million or 113 million additional spend that they didn't know they had. So imagine the win. And sometimes it's a little embarrassing, but that's no one's fault. It's just that the mechanism used before was just not giving the type of visibility and scale. And that was a great way for our clients to show that, hey, using a data-first approach versus a portal-based approach in one use case can have significant impact. The second piece is we could identify $90 million in additional potential small and diverse businesses. Since then, we have developed in Teal Book a self-certification mechanism that's authenticated that our clients are now leveraging and reporting against. And so our clients use Teal Book to do an outreach. It comes with the contact information. It comes with the outreach feature. The suppliers are coming in. It takes 20 minutes to get self-certified. It's free. And our clients can validate the data. And if they validate once, they validate for the entire network. And so we're seeing a conversion, 70 to $100 million in additional potential diverse spend converted into qualified, certified. So that's pretty impactful. If companies don't recognize that, there's some that will not recognize self-certification. it's still an amazing pipeline. If the suppliers have gone through the process, spend 20 minutes to do this for free, they're more likely to be receptive to go and get certified by one of the certifying agency. And so either way, I think that's a great win to be able to start introducing more spend in your existing supplier base. Longer term, we're seeing an incremental with tier 2. So we've now automated the tier 2 process. This is in beta for us. We have a few clients who have launched this in beta. The success of those initiatives has been like exceeding our expectations, because you never know if suppliers are going to be keen to load their master data. But the suppliers don't have to build any infrastructure. They don't have to pay to buy a portal, to set up a program. All they need to do in order to report is load their master data. We're going to give them an aggregate view of their small and diverse spend that's qualified, and they can assign a portion of that to their clients based on what the client is recognizing. So that process can be fully automated, and we're seeing some incredible wins. And our clients are excited, one, because it can make the biggest impact. So if you look here, it's $140 million in additional diverse spend by even selecting a number of suppliers to go through that process. But they're also now tapping into tiering visibility. And so although we don't share openly the supplier's data, we're starting to expose derivative insight that will indicate risk, innovation, localization data, benchmark data. So our clients are very excited about tier 2 because it's a mechanism to get to their suppliers. And then there's about a $15 million of additional spend by integrating Teal Book. We do have a search engine. It can be integrated into a punch out, into a system, so you can search for small diverse suppliers at the sourcing event to integrate them. You can leverage your existing. You can find new similar suppliers to yours that are small and diverse. It's a really fast way to include them in sourcing event. It actually accelerates that process by 90%. We're seeing a pretty big impact, but it's incremental. It's not the biggest bang for your buck up front, but it's really important because you do want to introduce those suppliers at the decision. And so again, we're investing heavily more. We're now expanding into full ESG, but this has been super exciting and very, very successful for our clients. We don't replace association. We don't do more support behind, but what we can do is a significant impact and help those small, diverse businesses get in front of good opportunities and make sure that the time that they're spending is worth the return on their investment. So just to wrap up, because we only have a couple of minutes, the way that we see the future is that certification should be democratized and expensive. There's no reason if a business is women-owned or veteran-owned, if they haven't gone through an expensive, quite intense certification process, why are they not being recognized? Can we lower the bar? Can we make it accessible? Can we open this pipeline of innovation to your organization in a way that you can capitalize on it? We want to be able to that you capture 100% of your small and diverse spend. There's no reason to leave 20 to 300% of your spend on the table because you can't see it and because the process is too manual. We want small and diverse suppliers to be integrated into all business decisions. There's no reason when you're launching an RFP to be able to say, hey, I want a certain number of suppliers that we already do business with so that we can drive more compliance to existing contract. In the same search, I want to make sure that I include 20% of our suppliers that are small and diverse that meet our requirements. I want to make sure I include suppliers that are ISO certified or et cetera, et cetera. So again, having all of the information instead of being compartmentalized in different system and portal, have it all together, feed into your existing technology stack is a really powerful way to ensure that you're including them. And then also reporting effort by categories of who have included small and diverse businesses and what has been the impact on overall spend. And that increases accountability as well. And then there's more mandate right now for tiering visibility. Germany has come up with regulations that you need to have visibility across your tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 supplier base. It's going to be really hard to do if we're doing it in the portal way because everyone would ask the suppliers to do the same things. And so finding ways to map the supply chain in a way that's automated, that's not cumbersome, is our goal. And so that giving that kind of visibility can be really powerful to think how you can structure your supplier base in a way that mitigates your risks, that optimize innovation, optimize your ESG goals that are so important to shareholders and board members and consumers, to your so I'm out of time, but that's I just want to finish on that note of how we see the world. Please connect with us if you're interested to learn more. Connect with our team. If you want to follow me, I do talk a lot about data, but I do talk also about supplier diversity. And we have a lot of events this year coming up to educate on the DataFirst approach to achieving your procurement goals. Thank you so much.
Stephany, thank you for taking all that time. I know you couldn't see it, but the chat was lots of people saying hello, lots of people talking about the value that you provide in your company. A couple of quick questions. Some quick points that I just pulled down as you were talking and some things I jotted down. I was not aware that only 5% of the vendor population that's qualified to actually be certified is certified, which to me is absolutely shocking. I mean, that
isn't it amazing that it was the first. I'm like, there's no way, but it is.
I mean, that's just a mind-boggling number, which is to say, okay, if you take a client who becomes a Teal Book client and they think that they only have $300 million worth of spend, you double that, and to think that you're only hitting about 5% of the potential population, even at the doubling number, is truly enlightening. So thanks for shedding some light on that, and thanks for showing us how data integration can help with a lot of goals and objectives. We did have a couple of questions. One of them is, what sources do you use to find new net qualified vendor population? Yeah, that's a quick one. And then what kind of threshold do you bring small suppliers in at is another one that we have. So if you can tackle one or two of those, that'd be great.
Small suppliers in at.
And no one listened to me and went into the Q&A, by the way. Everybody just threw questions into the chat.
No, what kind of threshold do you bring small, diverse suppliers at? I'm not sure I understand that question.
It might be a question around how much spend, at what point do you say, hey,
oh, it's all, right? That you spend, and that's the point is if you're spending $1,000, but you've got 500 suppliers that you're spending, right, X amount of money, it doesn't need to be your biggest spend. It's actually when you're starting to leverage your smaller spend and you add it all up because you're capturing it. So it can be $100. Like if we find it and we match it against your master data, it will be added to your reporting and you'll be able to break it down by supplier and by spend.
Let me ask you a question because we only got a couple minutes left. I know you've got a breakout session during the Lunch and Learn session, so hopefully people will go and attend that as well because there's more information to come from Teal Book today. Do you see your clients treating small diversity-owned vendors differently than their regular population? Obviously, things with like payment terms or flexibility associated with liability, maybe easing some of the legal logistics of contracting and things like that, just to be able to on-ramp and get folks into the mix in large corporate entities?
Yeah, we had a large bank that adopted Teal Book and a lot of success stories around this client. But upon implementation, we found $50 million in additional diverse spend, which was a huge win for them. It went into the sustainability report. The CEO announced this to the shareholders. And then I was speaking at Women Fund Financing at an event, and one of the lawyers asked a question, and she says, I think this is the same company that adopted Teal Book. They reached out to us. I own a law firm, and we have been doing business with them for many years. But they saw us and they saw that we were similar to a large firm that they're doing more business with. And so they called her specifically and they say, well, we've identified you as a supplier that we've been doing business with, that you're small and diverse. There's two things we want to ask. Could you come and speak to small, diverse businesses of what it required for you to do business with us and help us shape how we can enable small and diverse businesses to be easier to do business with a large bank? And second, make sure you scale up because we're going to send a lot more contract your way.
Yeah.
Like, I had shivers, right? I was like, this is such an amazing story because they were already doing business with her, but they were sending her a little bit of business versus shifting some of the spend with the larger firm to her, and the impact it has on her employees, their family, the community, just by shifting a few $1 million to her firm. Like that to me.
Yeah, that's the part. That's the part that's incredible, right? It's not just checking the box and spending the money with the right people, but the downstream effects that you create when you start to put this money into that community. Stephany, thank you again for your time today. We got about 30 seconds left. I just want to make a quick updating and housekeeping point. Right after Stephany's session here at 10:55, we're going into a 20-minute break, which I have begged for with the team to have longer bio breaks. So in between. Keep in mind, with 20 minutes, great opportunity for you to go to the expo booths right now. I know there's been dozens of sessions and meetings already set up. Teal Book and the rest of the sponsors are waiting to hear from you right now. Take some time, get over to the expo booths, and then come back and see us at 11:15 for our next May Stage event. Thank you, Stephany. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a great day.